good afternoon, students of Springfield Elementary School. It's exploratory day, and actually it's probably morning from where you're sitting, and you've chosen to take a class called Lawn Mowing Safety and Strategy with Mr. Keene. And you actually just saw my dog, Freya, walk through the shot here a second ago. There she is. And Parker, my son in 5th grade, is behind the camera, so thank you for being our director today. But I want to talk to you about something that I really enjoy. It's something I've been doing for a long time. I probably started mowing lawn when I was 9-10 years old, and might have been a little early, but we had a lot of lawn to mow. I grew up on a farm, and it seemed like we had to be out on that lawnmower almost daily in order to keep up with it in the summer. And then when I got into college, I actually took a job in the summers working at a golf course where I mowed the tee boxes and the fairways and the greens every single day, and just had a lot of fun learning all the techniques it took to make the grounds look really sharp. And so lawn mowing is a life skill that you're going to need as you become a homeowner, and something that not only is going to make your property look nice and keep your value of your property up, but it's going to be something that I think you're just going to find as an activity that can give you joy and give you kind of a break from work at times. And it's something, like I said, that I just really enjoy to do. So I'm going to talk about some of the basics today. Number one is going to be just maintaining your lawnmower. I've got a riding mower here. It's a John Deere X350. It's got a 48-inch deck, so it's 4 feet wide. That's the coverage that it has when you go up and down. And something you got to really understand is you got to keep your oil up. You've got to keep your gas up. You've got to make sure that you maintain your engine and all the components of your lawnmower. So I'm going to show you something over here. If you come around, Parker, one thing you should always start with when you start mowing your lawn is checking your oil. Okay, so here's your dipstick, and you want to pull that out, and you can see right there that there's oil on that stick. So you want to wipe it off to start. Sometimes it gets jostled around as you're moving the mower. Put her back in, screw it in, pull it out, and then you can see the level. And if you look right there, my oil is right up to the full mark. You want it somewhere within that dotted range or to the full mark. You also want to look at the color of your oil. If you look at your oil and it's real black, it probably hasn't been changed in a while, and I'm getting to the point where I should probably change my oil again here. But your oil should look somewhat clear to kind of a light tan brownish color. Okay, so my oil's good. Next, I want to fill it with gas. I'm going to go to the gas tank here. Straight gasoline. It's not a mix. It's not diesel. I'm going to fill my tank. Looks good for now. Be sure that you screw that back on tight. And then I always kind of like to just do a walk around, make sure that everything's looking sharp, kind of wipe things down, make sure there's not too much debris on the deck. Sometimes you get excess grass and twigs and stuff in there, and just make sure that your machine is ready to work the right way. Sometimes I'll look under the deck, and it's important that you know you never put your hands under here if the lawnmower is on. You only do this when the device is off, okay? So make sure that there's nothing in between the blades. Your belts look good. I think we're ready to go, okay? All right, we're about to start mowing today. There's a couple other things I want to point out, though, before we do. Before you start mowing, you got to understand what kind of conditions are you working with. Right now, it's a beautiful spring day, probably 55 degrees, the sun is shining. You don't want to mow wet lawn. You want lawn to be dry when you mow it. If it's wet, it can get all clumpy. It can bog down the inside of your deck and get caught up in there and create kind of a mess for you to clean up afterwards. The grass tends to cut cleaner and better when things are dry. So you probably want to wait till later in the day or in the afternoons, evenings when you mow your lawn, okay? like I said, we're about to get going here. It's the spring of the year, and this time of year, grass is just starting to kind of get going again. It needs a little more heat. It needs a little bit more rain before it really starts to thicken up and grow well. And one of the things I learned when I was working on the golf course is in the spring, when the temperatures are cooler, you can cut the grass shorter. It can withstand a little more stress during this time of the year because those temps are so cool, okay? So I tend to set my deck between 2.5 and 3 inches in the spring. Right now, every lawnmower has a little bit different tool or system for raising or lowering your deck position, but this is your deck, and to get it to go higher or lower to cut the grass a certain height, you need to make those adjustments. Right now, I'm going to cut mine at 2 3/4, between 2.5 and 3 inches here. Okay, I like to cut it short in the spring of the year. As the summer comes along and things get hotter, I tend to raise that up. By midsummer, I'm probably cutting it at 3.5 to 4 inches. One of the things that grass does in the summer when it starts to get a little thicker is if you let it go a little longer, it actually helps to hold the moisture when you do get rain. It keeps it greener, and also that shade that the grass creates keeps the weeds from sprouting and growing up in it. So it's to your advantage to let your lawn get a little bit longer in the summer months. Okay, we're almost ready to get started here. I've got my deck set. We're ready to start mowing the lawn. We're going to do this center piece right here. It's pretty easy. There's no trees. There's nothing really to worry about at this point. No fences or anything to go around. So we'll start with something simple here. But one more thing I want to talk about in terms of safety is that as a little kid or as a first-time mower, you never get on and off the mower unless the blades are stopped. And there's a setting on each mower, like I said, where you can get the blades to stop. If it's a walk behind, a lot of times you just got to let the lawnmower shut off. But I would never let anybody come near me if these blades are on, because a lot of times it can kick out rocks or sticks. It can shoot things out at you that could hurt you. It could damage your eyesight. A lot of dangers. This is a very dangerous machine. It's something you got to treat with a great deal of respect, okay? One thing, too, is if I did have someone out here that needed me for something, I would always want them to approach me from the front. So I see Annie over here. Annie is going to join us, and if she needed me for something, I would want her to stop a ways away and wave at me and kind of give me the signal so that I see her and I can stop and shut the mower blades off before we talk about whatever it is she has for me, okay? So Annie, you would start over there. You'd say, Dad, hey, how's it going?
Hi, Dad.
Yep, and when I would recognize her, I'd shut the mower off or I'd stop the blades, and then we could chat. Okay, likewise, if I'm mowing and Annie or somebody else is playing behind you, you got to assume that you don't know who's around you. A lot of times you got your headphones on or your glasses on, and it's hard to see and hear what's happening around you because the mower's so loud. You got to be careful that you never come up behind someone that's mowing the lawn. If I were to choose to go into reverse right away and Annie or someone was back here, Annie, why don't you come here? We could accidentally run her over, or her feet or legs could get caught in the blades, and that's a really dangerous situation too. So never approach someone from behind. Always get their attention out front. Make sure they see you before you get any closer. And as the mower, always be sure to shut those blades off before you get on or off that mower. All right, now we're going to get started. So I always got to make sure I've got my ear protection ready to go. I'm going to pop that on in just a second. When I start my mower, I've got to have my foot on the brake. I'm going to push the throttle up to full speed. Some mowers have a choke on them. I'm going to push that all the way up. That's going to help it to engage right away. I'm going to turn the key. Now, just to talk about a couple things, after the mower starts, you want to let that choke off and just let the throttle run. You can always raise or lower the speed of your engine with that throttle lever there, okay? What I'm going to do with this piece is I like to establish a starting point, okay? And if you come over here, you can actually see that the last time I mowed this lawn, I went in this direction, okay? So you can see the stripes of the lawn are kind of pointed east-west like that. I always want, when I mow the lawn, to mow it in a different direction than the direction I mowed it the previous time. I like to go perpendicular. So if I went that way the last time, now I'm going to go this way this time. And what that does, it creates kind of a checkerboard pattern. It's going to look really nice when it's done. Okay, so I'm going to first cut my checkerboard pattern. I'm going to go straight north-south here. And then when I'm done, I like to do what's called a cleanup cut, where I go all the way around the piece and clean up any sharp edges or bad edges where I didn't cut the grass clean there. It'll look really nice and clean and uniform when it's done. So I've done a couple passes here, and what I've done is tried to identify a point in the distance that I wanted to shoot for, especially on my first pass. So I kind of picked out a tree, and if I just focus on that with my eyes, I can guarantee myself a really nice straight line. I try not to take my eyes off that mark until I get to the very end. Now, one of the things you probably saw in that first shot is that I was turning after each end, and there was all this dust blowing up, and it was kind of dirty. Okay, one of the things you can do to save yourself some time, especially if you've got a yard with a gravel driveway or concrete or anything that you've got to turn a lot, is try to make as long of passes as possible. So what I'm going to do on these next couple passes is I'm going to actually go all the way through this piece up to the next piece until I have to stop and turn around, and then I'm going to come all the way back to this end, and I'm going to turn around there. And what it's going to do is it's going to minimize the number of turns. I won't have to turn so often, okay? So check that. We've come to that point in our lawn mowing experience where we need to find a way to get around this tree. And one of the things I want you to understand is what side of your mower is designed to go around trees. You'll see here this tree, it's a young maple tree. I've tried to put some mulch around it over time, but the grass is kind of growing in. And if I don't get nice and close, it's going to create kind of a long area right there that I don't want. I might have to come around with a trimmer, but if you're good at this, you can usually go around the tree pretty close with your lawnmower without damaging it. You'll notice this side of my deck is kind of smooth right here. It's got a softer edge on it, okay? That's the side that I always want to go around the tree with. And it might take a little backing up and a little going forward. I don't have a zero turn lawnmower. A zero turn mower can turn on a dime right there and make a perfect circle. Mine isn't quite that tight, and so I need to do a little backing up. But if you come around to this side, you'll see this is kind of the exit chute. This is where all the grass comes pumping out. This is not a good side to mow around a tree with, okay? This is kind of sharp, this edge here. It can cut a tree, it can rake up the bark and kind of damage the tree. And so you never want to go around a tree with that side of your lawnmower. Use the soft edge. So I'm going to show you how to do this. And then one other thing that I kind of forgot to mention earlier is how do you know where to drive on your past marks, okay? If you look back up here, you can see some of those stripes there. And the way I approach it is I always try to have my wheel run right on or just outside the previous cut line, okay? That way I know that I'm guaranteed to cut all the grass and I'm not leaving little strips along the lawn, okay? So be sure to cover the last path, okay? Let's go around this tree. Alright guys, we're nearly done with this middle piece, and as you can see I did a little bit of work on this part of the lawn, then up again above the driveway. You can see these stripes. You can see kind of a lighter colored stripe right here and a little darker stripe right next to it, and the same here. And what you get is that striping effect. When you go in one direction, you come right back in the opposite direction. That's one of the strategies. It's kind of a preference thing. You'll see a lot of golf courses or baseball fields that have kind of that checker board or that striped pattern look to them. Some places you'll see where everybody just goes all in one direction. And really what it is the mower laying the grass in one direction, and the sunlight reflects off it differently. It's not a different type of grass. It has nothing to do with that. It's just really the mower actually laying the grass in one direction versus the other, and the sun reflecting off of it. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go back up. We're going to finish that little section on that middle piece, and then I'm going to do a cleanup cut around the middle piece to kind of make sure I've got all those edges taken care of. Here we go. Alright guys, so now we're to that point where we need to go around the house, okay? And a lot of times around the house you're going to see some rocks or some mulch or some edging that you're going to have to go around. It's important again to use that soft side of your deck to go around those places and to not push up cut grass clippings up against your house. It can turn into kind of a mess over time, and it can be a space where weeds like to grow. So we're going to go around the house one time, and then once I get around the first time, I'm going to go back in the opposite direction. I always do 2 cleanup cuts around the foundation, and it gives me the space to turn then when I do the regular rounds on the rest of the lawn. Here we go. You'll notice as I'm going around the house here, I'm trying to keep the edge of the mower right on the edge of the edging and not on the rock. There are places where you might overlap a little bit, but for the most part you want to try to avoid that rock, because if you catch one of those, the blades can shoot it out pretty fast and it can create a mess on the lawn or could potentially hurt someone. So really take your time. You'll notice here I'm going pretty slow around those edges, taking those corners as close as I can without actually getting up onto the rocks. Now, as you notice, as I come around this tree here, I've already gone around the tree to the left and I'm not quite ready to get to the tree on the right there. So I just back up and go right back down the path that I had just come on. Sometimes you save yourself some time by using your reverse and not making a full loop. Is done. I've had a lot of fun making this video. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. A couple things I thought about as I was wrapping things up is this exit chute is also kind of important to talk about in terms of why you don't go around trees with this side. This, as you can see, adds an extra foot of length outside your deck, and so you can never get right up against the edge of the tree if you go on this side, because your actual blades aren't cutting until actually getting in tighter to the deck. The other thing to remember about this deck, this is the exit chute, and so rocks and debris and everything comes shooting out of here, and if you're in that line of fire, you could be in danger. So never be looking at this side of the lawnmower. If somebody's coming by you, you kind of want to turn away if that side of the deck is pointed in your direction, okay? Guys, it feels good to be done with a lawn like this. I'm actually going to be trying to seed in some spots that are kind of bare. If you look up underneath the trees there, areas that get a lot of shade tend to not grow as thicker grass. And so every spring I have a need to replenish some of those areas with some extra seed. I'm looking forward to doing that tomorrow. I'm hoping that it'll rain on top of that and get everything going. And I think we're supposed to have some heat in the days ahead. And so this is a great time of year if you like mowing lawn. I hope you guys will start looking at lawn mowing as an option for you. It might be something you can do to help your parents out, maybe grandpa or grandma or a neighbor. Could be something you even turn into a side business and make a few bucks with over the summer months. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Take care, have a great day, and if I don't see you again, you guys have a great summer. We look forward to seeing you back in the fall.